Today we're doing another what if video. We're going to do what if Medusa was in Divine Knockout. I think this would be a perfect fit, especially since she already has a chibi skin, and if you really listen to most of her abilities from Smite, it fits perfectly in Divine Knockout. We'll just twist it here and there. Something I wanted to add before we touch on the abilities is pretty simple. I want to add a passive to her like I did in the last video with Cupid. For the passive for Medusa, since she's a snake and she's very slippery and slithery, when you're trying to hit her, you don't do full damage. Maybe the damage is naturally reduced by, I don't know, 2 to 3 points, but that's something really nice to add to Medusa simply because she's moving around like a snake. So you're trying to hit her and you do get a damage off on her, but it glances. It's never a full hit frontal blow. So I think that would be a nice passive for Medusa. Now we're going to go on to touch her first ability, which is her mobility. Now what's going to be a little weird with this is she doesn't have legs, so we need to find a way to make this work. In Smite, however, her first ability is called Viper Shot. Medusa gains increased attack speed and basic attack becoming augmented, shooting Viper and Poison at her targets. Obviously, that's not going to work for Divine Knockout since she needs to be able to move around and do mobility. So what I was thinking was very simple. Since she's a snake and snakes like to slither, if she's on land, she'll snither past an opponent. So basically, let's say Hercules was standing in front of you and you had a good distance gap, you're going to slither through him super quickly, avoiding any damage. And if you so happen to run into that character, you're just going to leave one little poison tick on them. It's not going to be a long tick, like a little jump, and it leaves 2 poison ticks after that, which I think would be nice. Now, if you're in the air, I think this would be pretty funny since it's a whole chibi version of Smite. So if your character is in air, or should I say Medusa's in air, you're going to coil up your tail in a little coil and launch yourself off to get back into the ground. Now, obviously, if you hit somebody when you land, you will still bite them and leave a little poison damage with ticks for 2 ticks, which is pretty decent. I think it'd be funny. Imagine her in the air, coiling up her tail to launch herself off like a spring to get back on, because I mean, she doesn't really have much, right? Okay, now we're going to move on to the second ability. Now in Smite, this is actually pretty decent. We just need to tweak it here and there to bring it over to Divine Knockout. In Smite, it's called Acid Spray. Medusa hurls back and spits out acid that damages the first enemy hit and sprays out acid in a cone behind them. Enemies hit with the acid spray will have their healing reduced. The rest of it doesn't actually fit with my plan for Divine Knockout, so what it's going to be is a simple acid spray. I like that idea. It fits her so perfectly, so I think that's what we're going to copy for Divine Knockout. She's going to have a cone in front of her and she's going to spit out acid like pss, pss, and everybody gets hit and gets some extra ticks. Maybe it ticks 4 times. So her whole build is obviously going to be based around acid, and obviously we kind of have a guess of what her ultimate is going to be. So we're going to move on to her third ability, which in Smite is called Lacerate. Medusa moves quickly, slithering forward, damaging enemies she passes through. The first enemy god she encounters causes her to stop before she damages and roots the god hit. So now I have an idea for a Divine Knockout and I'm going to try my best to explain it. So for starters, I do like the fact that she's moving around. Because she's a snake, she's able to slither. So what I was thinking, this is going to be a 2 activation ability, the way Susanoo's ability activates for Katana Storm. So what you're going to be able to do is allow Medusa to move in an S formation. So the first activation allows Medusa to move 1/2 of the S, and if she hits somebody, she will immediately immobilize them with some toxins, allowing them not to move and do 2 poison tick damage on them. Now it's going to have this animation where it looks like there's donut circles around that character, so you know they're immobilized maybe for 2 seconds, and then you're going to activate the second part of the S and the same thing happens, or you can just activate the second part of the S to gain some distance. I think this would fit Medusa perfectly for her third ability. Now I want to call this ability Shifting Sands because I think it, or Shifting Snake, I don't know, something along those lines. You could come up with a name in the comment section and let me know. So another thing also with this ability that I think would be very nice is that when you're moving, you're immune to being knocked back but not immune to damage. The damage will just be reduced because of Medusa's passive. So now we're going to go into her ultimate ability, which is pretty simple. We're going to call it Petrification, and it's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to petrify your opponents. So let's say your opponents are coming back in. It's going to work as a giant King Arthur stun, where instead of just stunning them, it turns them into stone and they drop down. But however, since it's Medusa, you have to be facing her and watching her in her eyes. So if your back is turned, you're not going to be petrified. However, you're going to be slowed and you're probably going to take a good chunk of damage. Now, this isn't all for Medusa's ultimate. It's going to act very differently if the person gets petrified on the ground or they get petrified when they're coming in off the map. So for example, if they're off the map, they're just going to turn to stone and drop down. And obviously, if their back is turned, they're going to be slowed and take damage. Now, however, if they're petrified on land, they will immediately turn to stone for 2 to 3 seconds. Now, what you want to do is once they're in stone, you're going to want to immediately charge up your heavy attack and hit them. The way you do it is Izanami when you fear somebody. It's going to allow you to add extra knockback to that attack and it's going to shatter them. So if they don't get knocked back, they're instantly going to take 30% damage from that ability. So 30% instant vulnerability added to them. And this covers what Medusa would be like in Divine Knockout. Obviously, for her minor trait, Greater Blessings, those are things that would have to be fleshed out a little further. But for me, I think this fits perfectly. Now, if you have any ideas of your own for other characters you'd like to see in this series, or have your own script written out and put in a video, all you have to do is leave it in the comment section below. If you have ideas for major traits, Greater Blessings, whatever it is, also feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And that's it for this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.